the BAP? Does the BAP come up live? Okay. You're going to have to listen, buddy, because I've got the cans on. The cans. Professional word, that is.
So I can listen to that one.
Just, you should be able to hear it coming out the back. I think it's working. No, I mean, can you hear anything coming out there? You should be able to. It's just, it's. I can see it trying to update. I could definitely feel. Why is your internet so slow? Fucking NBN.
There's no NBN here.
I know. I'm absolutely certain I heard something come out of there, hey? And now it's fucking died again. What the fuck?
Just swap over to 4G.
Okay. That looks like it's working. All we need to do is hear something coming out the other end. There you go. Is that coming out the phone? Right. Okay, I'm going to switch that off.
Are we ready to rock and roll?
Whoa. Fuck, that's loud, hey? Okay.
We live?
We're not recording. So we're streaming, we're not recording. I just want to make sure. I don't know. I'm going to have to sit way back because that sounds so loud.
Well, you got to realise people will be able to turn it down and control their volume. So if we're broadcasting loud,
You happy with that?
yeah, they'll turn it down themselves.
Okay. Wow. Just,
Well, can you turn your mic volume down?
use.
Hello, 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 hello,
I'm
hello.
here, so I'm definitely too loud. Definitely too loud. Definitely.
Hello, hello, hello.
That is better.
Okay. Hello.
So Dean's channel was dialed up way high. Okay.
Are we broadcasting?
We are broadcasting. We now.
Hello and welcome to the BAP. Today is the 24th of July 2016 and we are broadcasting from the progressive cock. Everyone's a cock at the moment. Everywhere I listen to at the moment, every right-wing or left-wing podcast is using the term cuck for different reasons.
Specifically, cuck-servative, right?
Cuck-servative. Everyone's a cuck. By the way, my name is Franco. Joining me is Jason. Not joining me is that cuck Dean. He's decided to go on holidays.
Holidays? Damn. I thought he was actually travelling for work, so there you go.
No, well.
No. I think I'm wrong because I've seen the Facebook updates.
So yeah, cuck. So do you know what actually a cuck is?
I happen to know one meaning of it. There's a whole entire genre of
Oh,
porn
really?
named after it. Yeah.
Well, my understanding is from the porn genre, where basically a cuck is a guy who likes to see his wife having sex with other men.
I think more correctly, it's actually a cuck is anyone whose wife is screwing around on him.
Oh, okay.
He's the cuck,
Right.
whether he knows it or not.
But all of a sudden, this expression has exploded onto the American electoral scene.
I'm not even certain if it's being used correctly.
I have no
What
idea.
is so cuckish about cuck-servatives? I don't know. I just don't get it. I don't entirely understand.
Well, I thought it was also being used by conservatives as well to denigrate rivals.
Could be. They're throwing all sorts of words around, and you're speaking about the Republican National Convention, which has been a bit of a shit show.
Well, let's just plow into the show. We can come back to the douchebag filter later.
Okay, we can, because I have got something for douchebag filter, so we'll just go
what's the
straight.
douchebag filter?
Okay, so I went and saw Ghostbusters,
Okay.
the new Ghostbusters.
Yes.
And I feel this movie has been much maligned for no reason.
Okay.
I don't know. Did you catch any of the...
I knew a lot of the Gamergate-esque community was very upset that I don't know, was it Warner Brothers who produced this movie or
I'm not
Universal,
sure.
whoever it was, would choose women to be in the lead characters.
Yeah,
And apparently this just blew some people's minds.
I think there was a lot of unwarranted nerd rage, is what it was. And possibly because the villain in the film is quite easily identifiable as a misunderstood nerd. So there's probably some more there as well. But I actually quite liked it.
All right, spoiler alert, we're about to talk about the movie in depth.
Yeah, I don't think there's a hell of a lot to spoil about it.
So obviously, it's not a recreation of the original movie. Obviously, they've taken it in a different direction.
That's right.
Set in a different time period.
Well, a different time period, but contemporary time period. Like Ghostbusters, the original one was contemporary.
Yes. But it's a new script, right?
New script. The basic premise is the same, but the I don't know, the execution and the narrative is a little bit different. But it's still the Ghostbusters, and it was quite good.
Did they recut the Ghostbusters theme song?
Yes, yeah, and they used the same theme song. They used the same logo, and the humor was good. McCarthy was in it, Kristen Wiig, and Leslie Jones, who copped a lot of grief.
I saw that. Apparently, she was getting a diatribe of hate on Twitter, and she basically checked out, said, "I'm out."
Yeah,
Had enough.
I'm trying to figure out. I'm watching the movie because I'd actually heard about that the hate that was being generated by one Milo Yiannopoulos as well.
Oh, was he leading this?
He was one of the main ones. He actually had his entire Twitter account. He's been banned from Twitter.
But he's been banned before.
Are you sure? Because I think this is the first time. He certainly made a big deal out of it, like it was the first time.
I know he's had run-ins with Twitter before, though.
I think this is the first time he's been banned, though.
So did he lead a personal attack on Leslie Jones?
Yeah, he took offence at the stereotyping of her. He saw her character as fairly stereotyped and just lazy and blah. He had all sorts of criticism. Some of them may even be, some warranted, genuine criticism, but he just went way over the top.
But was he attacking her personally? I know a lot of the attacks that Leslie was finding.
It was directed at her. She was named in the mentions on Twitter.
No, but what I mean is a lot of what I saw of what Leslie Jones really tapped out on was, comments about her weight, about her race, and so forth.
I know there was plenty of comments about the race, about the racial aspect of a character from Milo.
Okay.
But I don't know if he went specifically on the weight. I can't remember all the. But you know what he's like. He's an attention whore, and he's specifically trying to get a rise out of people, and the MRA types and all that. And all those types just leap in on that kind of stuff. Once they've got a big name like that coming in on their side, who they'll be quoting. So she signed out of Twitter, and he got signed out of Twitter. So it's quite good. But the movie in general was pretty good. I actually thought, the humour was great. It was good, some really good comedy in it. And probably the only downpour was a bit yawnish was some of the action. It was a little bit of the action scenes, but it wasn't that bad.
I love the original Ghostbusters. Didn't mind the sequel. I'm sort of a bit hesitant to get on the new Ghostbusters bandwagon, only not because the lead character is female or anything like that, but remakes of great movies tend to be fizzles. For instance, Total Recall.
I haven't even seen that one.
Yeah.
I haven't even seen it.
It's like, did this movie really need to be remade? So I'm not necessarily bagging out on Ghostbusters. It's probably a lovely movie, but I tend to be disappointed in general with remakes of great movies.
Yeah. I'd actually say this was pretty good, and it stood well on its own.
Okay.
Yeah, it was fantastic. But as I said, the rage that was around it, that it was before it was even released. It's crazy. I cannot see why everyone was that upset. The characters were dealt with quite well, and as I said, the comedy value in it was great. I mean,
well, the other thing to probably keep in mind is the new Ghostbusters movie isn't for the original fans; it's for the new generation who never experienced the Ghostbusters phenomenon. So
that's right. But of course, there's those aged nerds out there that obviously didn't appreciate it.
Rage against the machine. I personally have no problems with them recreating the movie for the new generation. Knock yourself out. It's not
don't go
necessarily
well.
about comparing the original with the new version.
And I think the idea of putting, I mean, there was always going to be terrible comparisons between this and the other. Whether they had 4 guys in the roles or 4 women in the roles, it wouldn't have mattered. People would have still, I mean, Total Recall probably got bagged out as well, didn't it?
I didn't even bother watching it. I mean, Total Recall was such a nuanced Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. I don't know how you recreate an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie without Arnold Schwarzenegger being in it. It's part of the actual shtick of his movies.
They messed around with the plot line to it. Like, they don't even, there's no going to Mars. There's no, I don't know. There was some stuff where they completely changed it. And I went, how does that even work? Anyway.
So I've been continuing my journey with Battlestar Galactica, and I've finally come up. Oh, spoiler! Anyone who hasn't seen season 4, tune out for a couple of minutes. Come up to the pain point that I've been previously warned about: the mid-season breakdown of Battlestar Galactica in season 4.
Yeah, well, I think, was this around the time when the writers went on strike or something like that?
I believe so. Co-host Dean has mentioned there were trials and tribulations. A lot of shows suffered with that writers' strike.
And this particular year, because there was a big writers' strike, and so basically the directorial and the production staff were having to write their own script.
Well, and the other problem they did have, because I noticed on one of the screen credits there, what's his name? Olmos?
Edward James Olmos.
He was directing an episode, so it's like, oh, okay. That's interesting. And the other thing that Dean mentioned was during season 4, they were told they weren't going to get a 5th season, so they all of a sudden had to bring the show to a close.
Wrap it up.
And wow, it's really gone off track. I mean, where I really noticed the show had jumped the shark as far as I was concerned when Felix starts singing in the hospital, and it's just crazy town.
You know what? I don't even remember much of season 4, and I've sort of stalled in my rewatching of Battlestar, mainly because, and this is perhaps a little bit topical. It seems that our ISPs are cracking down on these websites that distribute certain things quite well. That suddenly all these sites are drying up and disappearing and no longer accessible. Yes.
Oh, okay.
That seemed to be coming in about a month ago or so.
Oh, I see. Okay, so I mean, seasons 1 to 3, I was smashing them out, pretty much watching a couple episodes a day, and with season 4, it's pretty much an episode a week now. It takes me a long time to get through an episode.
It bounces back.
Yeah, okay.
It does bounce back, so it's worth seeing it out to the end.
So, I've just downloaded 2 more episodes from iTunes, so I shall give them a go.
Right. So I guess we'll just step back to the RNC coverage.
Yes,
which
I haven't been watching them per se. I've been watching them via the Majority Report coverage.
The same as me.
And wow, what a disaster the first night was, especially Benghazi. I mean,
that 13 hours like the joke they were making.
And it was strange because I was listening to the commentators and who had obviously, I'm assuming, had drunk a little bit of alcohol and seemed a bit crude in their attacks of these soldiers. But that, in a lot of regards, they were on point. What the hell's going on? Why has this been brought in? I mean, Benghazi, anyone's been following, has been done to death in sort of the political commentary sphere. Why at the RNC...
was there an entire night dedicated to Benghazi, basically? Yeah.
It was just crazy, and it was just crude to parade these soldiers. Well, they were soldiers, right?
Yeah. They were
out
apparently contractors that had been working in Tripoli and were part of the team that was going to be possibly sent out to Benghazi, and all the way through it they were explaining. I mean, you can hear their story in intricate detail if you go and listen to it, because they went into every little detail, especially how many times they went up on the roof.
So for anyone who wasn't listening, these soldiers seemed to be pronouncing roof as roof. It was very disconcerting.
Consistently and many, many times.
There's been 8 years of the Obama administration, and in all the 8 years, the biggest thing they rally on is Benghazi. Of all the things America's done in that 8 years, that's the one thing they hone.
It probably does seem astounding to everyone on the outside of America, really, is that how much attention is on Benghazi. So, if anyone doesn't know, there was an attack on the consulate there. Perhaps an embassy, I think it might have been classed as, but the ambassador was there and it was on a very low security sort of status. It happened at the same time as numerous kind of uprisings and protests, Arabic protests around North Africa. And at this time, it seemed some of the Al Qaeda elements utilized this moment to attack the embassy proper and killed the ambassador and a few of his security detail and a few others there. And even though it's clearly just a terrible tragedy that perhaps was avoidable in some sectors, but I don't think it's anyone specifically, certainly not Hillary Clinton's specific fault.
No.
They, but the right wing in America have just latched onto it and will not let go. They think
obsessed.
They think this.
I mean, America have been playing war for the past 20 years. It's not surprising that Americans will be killed overseas.
And
in
how
these
many?
little
There
adventures
were
of theirs.
three killed here, right? And yet, how many killed in Iraq and at various times?
God
And
knows. This is what I mean. You don't even have to look at outside of America to look at tragedies. You got Flint. It got lead in the water.
That's right. But they just will not let this. It's like a dog with a bone, and they just will not let it go. And so this first night of the RNC, a few soldiers that were involved just were obviously told to stretch out their story as long as possible. And they went into every single detail, every mortar bomb round that came in. And I did like one of the comments that the majority reporters said in that perhaps Michael Bay is a better film director than they expected because if this was actually the story, then man, he made a really decent movie working with that material.
And you had some interesting speakers on that night.
What was the first?
Scott Baio, Chachi.
Oh, that's right. And as the 3-night convention went on, Scott Baio seemed to turn out to be the intellectual of the group.
Really?
I don't know if you've heard the other 2 nights, but it just gets worse and worse.
Does it?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
The second and particularly the third night is just what the hell's going on? And I went on the majority report, Sam's just getting drunker and drunker, and in the
More
end,
belligerent?
he's getting more belligerent, just crude. He's just
I'm looking forward to it because I think the majority report were a bit shocked about how boring.
Everyone
the convention
expected a
was.
bit more excitement. Yeah,
there was just nothing.
the apparently the hallway was like only 50% full, maybe.
Well, considering that who was going to be nominated was pretty much a foregone conclusion. It's like, well, why are you even having a convention for? Why do you need, 5 nights?
I think it was 3.
Oh, 3 nights.
But probably the biggest point of excitement was when Ted Cruz got up there.
Yes.
And refused to endorse Donald Trump. He went about his speech and
He sort of went everywhere but
he
endorsing Trump.
meandered around it, and in the end wouldn't endorse. And the crowd was out there yelling him to endorse. And of course he didn't, and left to booze.
Yes. Once again, very interesting.
But I kind of appreciate that maybe Ted Cruz had a bit of backbone there. I mean, then you had Chris Christie getting up there, that whipped lapdog, and his whole speech was basically just doing a Matlock session of trying to lay out the guilt of Hillary Clinton on everything outright. So he'd lay out a couple of pseudo facts and then ask the crowd, a definitely anti-Hillary crowd, whether they thought she was guilty or not. And of course, the answer was always guilty.
Did Ben Carson end up giving a speech?
Ben Carson did.
Did he endorse Donald Trump?
Yes, he did. And he meandered around a little bit, but I don't know. Even Ben Carson seemed a little bit boring by comparison. It was not nearly as exciting as you might have expected it to be. I mean, every Trump kid got up there and had a go. Mm-hmm. They all had a bit of a speech.
I did hear Melania Trump's speech, who was in the media being accused of plagiarising Michelle Obama's speech.
She flat out plagiarised a couple of lines. But I mean, she plagiarised a few pointless platitudes.
Yes.
It really wasn't anything of substance
No.
anyway. It was just some pointless platitudes about sharing ideals and that kind of thing and trying to impart them to their children. And sure, she plagiarised it from someone, but they're just meaningless kind of things anyway. So,
well, the other thing that, and this is not only myself noticed, but the majority of people listening to is like, who the hell is she talking about? I mean, I don't know if it was so much her accent or does she even have a relationship with Donald Trump? A lot of pundits were saying that the reason you'd get the first man or the first lady to speak at any sort of public occasion in a campaign run is to show the human side of the candidate.
Yep.
She did not show the human side of Donald Trump from that speech.
I think it was a little bit harsh for her because English is clearly not her first language. So, I mean, trying to impart anything meaningful or emotive in another language has got to be difficult.
The other thing was where people were asking, who wrote your speech, Melania?
And she's claiming she wrote it herself. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, clearly, at least part of it, she didn't.
Michelle wrote.
And then, of course, Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump got up there. And one thing I have heard said, and that clearly seems to come through, is that at least they like their father. They all definitely like their father. So,
by all accounts, he's a likable guy. He's full of charisma. It must be great hanging around someone that's got a lot of money, personality, probably tells great stories. I mean, why wouldn't you like him? He's not Ted Cruz.
He would be a story. Oh, that's right. At least Donald Trump's kids do like him, whereas Ted Cruz. But closing it out was just a bit lackluster, the whole thing. And I guess we're all looking forward to, well, not all of us, there's some that might be looking forward to the Democratic National Convention, see what that's like.
When is that? Is that next week?
I think it is, yeah.
Once again, foregone conclusion that Hillary will be nominated.
But
I mean, her opponent has obviously already endorsed her.
I suspect there'll be a little bit more unity involved in that speech, although maybe some of the Bernie delegates will be calling out for an insurrection as well. I don't know. I mean, obviously it wouldn't be successful, but Bernie's obviously come out and endorsed Hillary already, so there's no question around that. And it'll just be a colour by numbers thing where they just go through the process and everyone gets up and says their little bit. Perhaps talking about the party platform, which has become a lot more progressive than it would have been. Whether they play that up or downplay it, perhaps, I'm not sure. It'll be interesting to see it. This will be probably the first time I've paid any attention to either of the national conventions.
The same for me as also. Did they talk about any policy platform at the RNC convention?
No, it was mostly anti-Hillary. I mean, every speech they get up...
Well, that is their policy platform, anti-Hillary.
Yeah, every speech they get up, it did seem to be mostly just talking about this is more about not getting Hillary, which is kind of the line Hillary's campaign's been taking about Trump. This is more about not getting Trump. Although they at least on the Democratic side, even during their primary, they were much more policy-driven in their discussions rather than any personal attacks, which the RNC was almost all personal attacks.
So what we're all really waiting for is the beginning of the general election campaigning. Hillary versus Trump. Will Trump be able to deal with Hillary? Is he going to be able to keep the conversations out of policy, which is where his strong point is? If he starts getting into policy with Hillary, he's going to get,
he's going to get beaten quite badly, I think. And she should beat him quite easily anyway. It just
if they get into policy.
Yeah, I don't think there'll be any problem there. It seems like it's a lot closer than it needs to be. I think she should really cane him quite easily. But it also feels like it's a lot closer than it should be. It shouldn't. He's a clown fascist. It shouldn't have gotten anywhere near this close.
But, American elections are campaigns or the politics of personality, not necessarily the substance of policy.
That's true.
And look, you've got Donald Trump, full of charisma. He has just this aura of presence, but there's no substance to any of his policies. He's just popularist. But that appeals to a lot of people. Yeah. Whereas Hillary, she can actually joust when it comes to debating. She lacks an element of charisma and likability.
Definitely lacks likability and trustworthiness.
Yes.
I mean, that's one of the issues. If you listen to the Young Turks, Cenk Uyghur's really good on analysing polls. He's actually pretty good on that sort of things. And he says, he's looking at the polls and he goes, Hillary should win. However, how can we talk about how can we not be a little bit worried when the Democratic candidate is losing out to Donald Trump on trustworthiness?
Yes.
That's just...
losing to Donald Trump on trustworthiness.
I know, that's just crazy that even that should even be close. But that's the case. That's how flawed a candidate she is.
But it's a perception thing as well. I think when people like someone, they don't necessarily believe that person has a lack of trust issue. So, because of Donald Trump's likability, people just ignore, the litany of cases that have been lodged against him for improper business conduct with Trump University or whatever else.
None of that seems to stick, does it?
The bankruptcies and so forth. I just like him.
I wonder if the Trump University thing will come up. I mean, if they...
I just don't think so. It will come up, but I just think just the mass of his personality just pushes all that down by the side.
Nothing seems to stick.
No.
They've tried to throw this kind of stuff at him all for the last year and none of it has ever stuck.
So obviously Hillary will be aware of that aspect. So she'll be trying to get him to engage in specific debates. So she'll be trying to get him to explain, well, how are you going to build this wall? Things like that.
But
How are you going to make America great again?
Yeah.
Specifically, sir.
And this is where you find out if there's enough people outside his base to vote for him, or whether as Sam Cedar says, normal people will vote for him, because it seems like he can appeal to the Republican base, which have proven to be quite a small, quite a focused sort of group. They're focused on some very simple sort of things, and he can appeal to those things. But outside that group, when you get into what they call normal people, they're not so interested. They're not so switched on by the anti-Mexican sort of rhetoric
maybe they are, but they're waiting for. Well, we're in the general phase now. You're going to have to explain in a bit more detail about some of these populist positions you put forward. How are you going to deliver?
Yeah, I don't know. It's as I said, this is the first time I paid this much attention to a US presidential election.
Well, I want to see exploration of how he's going to build this wall. How is he going to build the wall, making Mexico pay for it specifically? Other than saying, I'm going to make Mexico pay for it.
Well, and then if Trump gets in and then Canada decide they want a wall and they want to make him pay for their wall, because all the Americans going north to Canada, right? It could be possible.
So, also in the news, still in the news, is our Turkish friend Erdogan, president of Turkey. Is president or prime minister?
I think he's president now. He was prime minister first.
Yeah. And
then when he hit up against term limits there, he then made himself president.
So he's now shutting down charities and schools or anybody linked with the, I forget the name of that guy, Yulman Group or...
Yeah, I can't remember his name either.
So he continues to stamp down on any opposition.
The poor guy that's been retired in the US for 20 years and...
Well, who knows what he's been up to necessarily. He might not be necessarily the innocent party he makes out to be.
There was an interesting article in...
He does have he's the head of a very large organisation that has a lot of activities going on in Turkey. Okay. Whether they participated necessarily in the coup or not is up for debate.
And probably doesn't even matter to Erdogan really either.
No.
So... there was an interesting article in The Intercept where they were talking about, according to the US's rules of engagement, does Turkey have a case for drone striking?
I think they do.
Yeah.
I think we discussed this last week. They do. I mean, by the precedent that Americans have set in their overseas activities with drones.
That's right. Absolutely. Sending an assassin or drone striking or something like that.
That'd be interesting if Turkey actually did send a drone in to assassinate this guy. How would America respond?
Wow, I don't think the drone would get very far into American airspace. That's probably the difference, isn't it? Get shot down first. I mean, where the Americans operate with drones tends to be in places that don't really have big air forces of their own.
Also in the news was apparently it looks like Turnbull's already coming up with reasons why we won't be having the plebiscite this year for gay marriage in Australia.
Oh, really? I didn't catch on with that.
Yes.
So what's his reason?
Apparently they have to enact some legislation to actually allow the plebiscite to go ahead.
But it's not even binding. So why you need legislation? You need some enforcing legislation to do a non-binding, non-enforcing plebiscite.
Something like that. So now we're looking to early 2017 for this to have this plebiscite, which is going to cost upwards of $160 million. That's non-binding.
Oh, it's crazy. Actually, there was one interesting thing that I noticed. I haven't paid much attention to local news this week, but we've got our own clown fascist, of course. That's Pauline Hanson.
Yes.
Of all the racist crap she said that our news organisations can focus in on, they decided to go with a sex scandal.
Yes, I saw that. Yeah. Well, one particular newspaper.
It's not even really a scandal.
No,
it was two consenting adults outside of any other relationships in a relationship. Maybe the person that was with Pauline Hanson at the time now considers it a scandal because he doesn't want anyone to know about it. But that's what the news was focusing on, as if that matters at all. It's crazy. All the other stuff they can call her on, her xenophobia and the racism and that, but this is what they want to focus on.
This is why she's a bad person.
This is what they want to do.
She has sex with a consenting adult.
Yeah, they cohabitated for a year or something like that. It was her campaign manager or something, wasn't it? It was her.
I can't remember.
Oldfield or something like that.
Michael Oldfield. That's who I was thinking when there was this. I'm not sure if that's who. I'm
pretty sure that's what it was. And But even when she was explaining, she goes, I don't know why. She was even quite reasonably saying, I don't know why this is a scandal. We were both consenting adults outside of any other relationship. Yeah, it was crazy. But that's where our news wants to live these days.
That sells newspapers. Well, that's what their audience wants to read.
Really?
Actually, apparently. Well, it was the Herald Sun, wasn't it? They're not known for
could be, yeah.
high gravitas of reporting.
What else we got today? This may be a short show.
This could be a short show.
Where are we at?
No, I think we're out of topics for today.
Because didn't really have much else apart from I've been watching or listening to this RNC coverage pretty much all week. So
yeah,
that's about it.
Normally through the majority part we get a lot of our ideas for content. So
yeah, and so some of our content seems to be rather consistent, and that's it.
All right. Well, thank you for listening to the show. I've been Franco.
I've been Jason.
Ta-da.